The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating seats that circled the central platform. Their strange forms came from every corner of the galaxy. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others floated in tanks of glowing liquid. A few looked almost human, but with skin that changed colors like a rainbow. Jake Morrison stood alone in the center of it all. He was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. He wore a simple black suit that looked plain next to all the shimmering robes and crystal armor of the aliens around him. Behind him stood the other human representatives. Admiral Lisa Brooks in her Navy uniform. Captain Ryan Clark with his explorer's badge. Commander Beth Hayes with her hands clasped behind her back. They were the last humans who would ever stand in this place that high above them all. Floating on a platform of pure light sat the council's leader. Her name was Zephys, and she came from a world where her people were made of living crystal. When she spoke, her voice rang like bells throughout the massive chamber. "We gather today to decide the fate of the species called humans," she announced. Her words echoed off the walls and ceiling. "For 50 years, we have tried to help them join our peaceful union. For 50 years, they have refused to change their ways." Jake felt the weight of 10,000 alien eyes upon him. Some looked at him with disgust, others with fear, a few with what might have been pity. He stood straight and kept his face calm. He had known this day would come. They all had. "The evidence is clear," Zephys continued. "Humans cannot live in peace with other species. They build weapons instead of gardens. They claim territory instead of sharing resources. They fight wars instead of holding discussions." A creature that looked like a giant butterfly with 4 arms raised one of its delicate hands. "The Terran colonies have expanded into 17 star systems without permission from this council. They have built military bases on planets that should be nature preserves." Another alien, this one covered in blue fur and walking on 6 legs, stepped forward. "Human traders refuse to follow our fair pricing agreements. They undercut our merchants and steal our customers with their aggressive business practices." Jake had heard these complaints before. The same arguments had been made in smaller meetings for years. The council wanted humanity to give up everything that made them human. They wanted people to stop competing with each other. They wanted nations to disappear and everyone to share everything equally. They wanted humans to become something they were not. "We have tried to be patient," said a tall, thin alien whose skin looked like tree bark. "We have sent teachers and advisors. We have offered them our technology and our wisdom. But they refused to learn." Admiral Brooks stepped forward. She was a woman in her 50s who had spent her life in space, defending human colonies from pirates and hostile aliens. "We have learned plenty," she said in a clear, strong voice. "We have learned that your idea of peace means giving up our freedom. We have learned that your idea of fairness means we must become weak." A sound like angry buzzing filled the hall. The aliens did not like being challenged. They were used to species that bowed down and accepted whatever the council decided. Zephys raised her crystal hand for silence. "This is exactly what we mean," she said. "Even now, facing judgment, the humans cannot help but be aggressive and defiant. They cannot accept that there are better ways to live than their primitive methods." Jake looked around the great hall. He saw representatives from hundreds of worlds. The peaceful harmony worlds, where everyone agreed on everything and no one ever argued. The ethereal collective, where individual thoughts were shared among the whole population. The Zephyrian Empire, where crystal beings like their leader had given up all emotions to achieve perfect logic. They all thought they were better than humanity. They all believed that their way was the only right way. "The humans have been given many chances," Zephys announced. "They have been offered membership in our union if they would only change their nature. Instead, they have become more aggressive, more territorial, more dangerous. They are like a disease that spreads conflict wherever they go. Captain Clark, who had discovered more new worlds than any other human explorer, spoke up. We bring progress wherever we go. We build, we explore, we grow. Your council has been the same for 1,000 years. Nothing changes, nothing grows, nothing improves. Exactly our point, said the butterfly creature. Change brings conflict. Growth brings competition. Improvement means some succeed while others fail. These are the primitive concepts that make humans unfit for civilized society. Jake knew that no words would change their minds. The council had already decided. This trial was just a show they put on to make themselves feel better about what they were going to do. The vote will now be taken, Zephys announced. All those in favor of permanent exile for the human species, display your decision. Lights began to appear all around the great hall. Red lights for exile, blue lights for acceptance, green lights for more time to decide. The red lights came first. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They spread like fire through the assembled aliens. The Altarian Collective voted for exile. The Serene Republic voted for exile. The United Peaceful Worlds voted for exile. A few blue lights appeared, the small colonies that humans had helped defend against pirates. A couple of species that had benefited from human technology, but they were lost in the sea of red. When the counting was done, the numbers appeared in the air above the platform. 847 votes for exile, 23 votes for acceptance, 12 votes for more time. The decision is final, Zephys announced. The species known as humans is hereby banished from all council-controlled space. You have 1 standard year to remove all human presence from the inner systems. Any human vessels found beyond the exile zones after that time will be destroyed without warning. The great hall erupted in sound. Some aliens cheered. Others made noises of satisfaction. A few remained silent, perhaps wondering if they had made the right choice. Jake Morrison looked up at the crystal being who had just condemned his entire species. He felt no anger, no fear, no desperation. Instead, he felt something that none of these aliens would understand. He felt free. You have made your choice, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the noise. You see our strength as weakness. You see our independence as savagery. You see our growth as a threat to your stagnation. He turned slowly, looking at all the thousands of aliens around him. You think you are sending us away in defeat. You think you are protecting your peaceful galaxy from our dangerous nature. His voice grew stronger. You are wrong. You are not exiling us. You are unleashing us. You are not protecting your galaxy. You are giving it to us. The hall fell silent. Even the aliens who had been celebrating stopped their noise. We will leave your council space, Jake continued. We will go to the outer rim where you have banished us. And there, free from your rules and your weakness, we will become something you cannot imagine. He looked directly at Zephys. When we return, and we will return, you will understand why your ancestors feared the darkness between the stars. You will learn what humanity becomes when it has nothing left to lose. The human delegation turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the silent hall. No one spoke. No one moved. The aliens watched them go with the sudden, uncomfortable feeling that they had made a terrible mistake. As they reached the great doors, Commander Hayes turned back for one last look. The thousands of aliens still sat in stunned silence. She smiled coldly. See you soon, she said. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. The exile had begun. 5 years had passed since the exile began. The outer rim of the galaxy, looked nothing like it had before. Where once there had been only scattered human colonies and empty space, now there were massive shipyards that stretched across entire star systems. The sound of construction never stopped. Hammers rang against metal. Welders sparked in the darkness. Giant cranes moved ship parts that were bigger than buildings. Alex Carter stood at the window of Forge Station Alpha, watching the newest battleship take shape. The ship was enormous, longer than the tallest buildings on Earth. Its hull was covered in armor that could stop the most powerful weapons the Council had ever built. Its guns were bigger than anything humanity had ever made before. "The Sovereignty is almost finished," said Kate Sullivan as she walked up beside him. She was the chief engineer of the project, a woman who had spent her whole life building things. Now she was building the tools of war. "We will have it ready for testing next week." Alex nodded. He was in charge of all the construction projects in human space. Before the exile, he had been a simple factory manager on Earth. Now he commanded the largest industrial operation in the galaxy. The exile had changed everyone. It had made them all bigger than they had ever been before. "How many ships do we have now?" he asked. Kate looked at her tablet. Numbers flowed across the screen. 2,847 combat vessels. That includes everything from destroyers to the big dreadnoughts, like the Sovereignty. "We are building 50 new ships every month." Through the window, they could see workers swarming over the battleship's hull. These were not robots or automated systems like the Council used. These were humans, working with their hands and their minds. They worked harder than any machine because they knew what they were building. They knew why it mattered. The exile had done something unexpected to humanity. Instead of breaking them, it had united them. All the old divisions between nations and cultures had disappeared. There were no more Americans or Chinese or Europeans. There were only humans, working together for the first time in their history. Admiral Lisa Brooks walked into the observation room. She looked older than she had 5 years ago, but stronger too. The exile had been hard on everyone, but it had also given them purpose. "The Council thinks we are sulking in the outer rim," she said. "Their spy ships report that we are building defensive installations to protect our colonies. They have no idea what we are really doing." Alex turned from the window. "What are we really doing, Admiral?" Brooks smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We are building the largest war machine in galactic history. We are preparing to take back everything they stole from us, and more." Down in the weapons testing facility, Dr. Kevin Moore was working on something that would have terrified the Council if they knew about it. He was a small man with thick glasses, but his mind was sharp as a blade. Before the exile, he had been a physics professor. Now he was designing weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "The plasma lance batteries are ready," he told his assistant, Dr. Jenny Wright. "They can cut through Council shields like they are made of paper. Their weapons were designed to disable, not destroy. Ours are designed to win." The testing chamber was huge and empty except for a single target. It was a mock-up of a Council cruiser, built with the same materials and shields that the real ships used. Dr. Moore pressed a button, and the plasma lance fired. The beam of superheated energy struck the target and simply erased it. One moment, it was there. The next, it was gone. "That should get their attention," Dr. Wright said. On the military command station, Admiral Danny Carter was studying reports from across human space. He was not related to Alex Carter, but like everyone else, the exile had changed him. He had been a simple ship captain before. Now he commanded the largest fleet in human history. "How does our fleet compare to the Council's?" asked General Mike Stevens, who commanded the ground forces. Admiral Carter pulled up a holographic display. It showed the positions of ships across the galaxy. The Council fleet was scattered across hundreds of worlds, keeping the peace and protecting trade routes. The human fleet was concentrated in the Outer Rim, training and preparing. They have about 4,200 ships, Carter said, but they are spread out everywhere. Most of them are patrol ships and cargo escorts. They have not fought a real war in over 100 years. He highlighted the human positions. We have almost 3,000 ships, and they are all warships. Every single one was built for combat. Our crews train for battle every day. Their crews have never seen real fighting. General Stevens nodded. What about ground forces? The Council has peacekeeping troops on most worlds, Carter replied. But they are police, not soldiers. They are used to dealing with protesters and small criminals. Our Marines are training for planetary invasion. The transformation was not just military. On the farming worlds, human agriculture had become incredibly efficient. Crops grew faster and bigger than ever before. The mining colonies pulled resources from asteroids and planets at rates that amazed even the humans themselves. Every aspect of human civilization had been pushed to its limits. But the biggest change was in the human spirit. The exile had burned away everything weak and soft. What remained was pure determination. The Council had wanted to break humanity's will to fight. Instead, they had given humanity a reason to become the best fighters in the galaxy. Captain Steve Parker commanded a patrol ship that watched the border between human space and Council territory. He had been an explorer before the exile, mapping new worlds and making peaceful contact with alien species. Now he was a warrior, ready to fight for his people's future. Any word from the Council? Asked his first officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster. Nothing official, Parker replied. But our spies report that they are getting nervous. Some of their member species are asking questions about why they sent us away. They are starting to wonder if exile was the right choice. Through the ship's windows, they could see the lights of human construction in the distance. New stations were being built every day. New ships were being launched every week. The Outer Rim was becoming a fortress. Do you think they will try to stop us? Foster asked. Parker looked at the tactical display. It showed the positions of human ships, thousands of them, all armed and ready. They can try, he said. But they made one mistake when they exiled us. What mistake? They gave us time to prepare. They gave us a reason to unite. They gave us the motivation to become everything they feared we could be. On the industrial worlds, factories worked around the clock. The Council had always criticized human manufacturing, saying it was too aggressive and competitive. Now that aggressive competition was being turned into weapons and ships, human engineers were pushing the limits of what was possible. The Council. Races had grown soft over the centuries. They had forgotten what it meant to struggle, to compete, to fight for survival. They had peace and comfort and safety. They had everything except the will to defend it. Humanity had been stripped of peace and comfort and safety. But they had kept the one thing that mattered most. They had kept their will to fight. In the command centers and shipyards, in the training facilities and weapons labs, humans worked with a purpose that the Council could not understand. They were not just building ships and weapons. They were building their future. They were building their revenge. The exile had been meant to punish humanity for being too aggressive. Instead, it had freed them to become more aggressive than ever. Before, the Council had tried to teach humanity to be peaceful. Instead, they had taught humanity to be efficient at war. Admiral Brooks stood in the main command center, looking at reports from across human space. Everything was ahead of schedule. The ships were better than planned. The weapons were more powerful than expected. The training was producing soldiers who were harder and more skilled than any in human history. How long until we are ready? Asked Alex Carter. Brooks smiled. We are ready now. We have been ready for months. We are just waiting for the right moment. When will that be? When they make the first move. When they give us an excuse to show them what we have become. The exile was almost over. The real war was about to begin. Captain Steve Parker was having a normal day until everything changed. His ship, the Pioneer, was doing a routine survey of an empty star system near the border between human space and Council territory. The system had 3 dead planets and an asteroid belt. Nothing special. Nothing that should have caused trouble. But trouble found him anyway. "Captain, we have 3 ships approaching," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the tactical station. She was a young woman who had joined the Navy right after the exile began. 5 years of training had turned her into one of the best weapons officers in the fleet. Parker looked at the main screen. 3 sleek Council patrol ships were moving toward them. They were small compared to the Pioneer, but they had the authority of the Galactic Council behind them. Or at least they used to. "Open a channel," Parker ordered. The face of an alien appeared on the screen. It was Captain Thylos, an Altarian whose crystal skin shifted colors as he spoke. Parker remembered him from the old days, when humans still tried to work with the Council. "Human vessel, you are in violation of your exile parameters," Thylos announced. His voice had the cold authority of someone who expected to be obeyed without question. "You will surrender immediately or face destruction." Parker looked at the star charts on his screen. The Pioneer was in open space, far from any Council world. "We are in unclaimed territory, Captain Thylos. We have every right to be here. No longer." Thylos's crystal face showed no emotion, but Parker could hear the smugness in his voice. "The Council has extended its protected zones. This system is now under our control. You are trespassing." Behind Parker, the bridge crew waited for orders. They had all heard stories about the old days, when humans had to bow down to Council authority, when they had to ask permission to explore their own galaxy, when they had to accept whatever scraps the aliens chose to give them. Those days were over? "Negative, Captain Thylos," Parker said. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "We are not backing down this time." Thylos's crystal skin flashed red with anger. "You dare defy the Council? You are exiles, outcasts. You have no authority here." "We have the only authority that matters," Parker replied. "The authority of strength." The first Council ship opened fire immediately. Blue energy beams lanced out from its weapons, designed to disable rather than destroy. The Council had always preferred to capture enemies alive, to put them on trial and show their mercy. Their weapons reflected that philosophy. The beams struck the Pioneer's shields. For a moment, the bridge was bathed in blue light. Then the light faded, and the shields held firm. They had not even flickered. Lieutenant Foster looked at her instruments with surprise. "Shields at full strength, Captain. Their weapons did not even scratch us." Parker smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in years. "Return fire, Lieutenant. Target their engines." The Pioneer's response was nothing like the Council's gentle attempt at capture. Twin particle beams erupted from the human ship's weapons. They were not designed to disable. They were designed to kill. The lead Council ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, firing its blue beams. The next moment it was a cloud of expanding gas and metal fragments. The particle beams had hit it with such force that the ship's matter had been torn apart at the molecular level. The other 2 Council ships stopped firing. On the Pioneer's screen, Parker could see the faces of their crews. The aliens looked shocked, terrified, confused. They had never seen anything like this before. "Impossible," Thylos whispered. "No weapon can destroy a Council cruiser so easily." "Human weapons can," Parker said. "Would you like another demonstration?" The second Council ship tried to run. Its Engines flared as it attempted to escape to hyperspace. But Foster was faster. Her targeting computer locked onto the fleeing ship and fired again. The particle beam struck the ship's engine section. The ship did not explode this time. Instead, it went dark and began to drift, powerless and helpless. The third ship surrendered immediately. Its captain, a blue-furred creature with 6 legs, appeared on the screen with his hands raised in submission. "We yield," he said in a shaking voice. "Please do not destroy us." Parker studied the alien's terrified face. 5 years ago, he would have felt pity. 5 years ago, he would have offered help and tried to make friends. 5 years ago, he was a different man. "You have a choice," he told the alien captain. "You can return to Council space and tell them what happened here. Tell them that humans are no longer afraid of their authority. Tell them that the exile is over." The alien nodded frantically. "Yes, yes, we will tell them. We will tell them everything." "Good," Parker said. "Now go. And if I see Council ships in human space again, I will not be so merciful." The surviving Council ships fled as fast as their engines could carry them. Within hours, the news had spread across the galaxy. Humanity had fought back against the Council and won. Not just won, but dominated completely. In the Council chambers, panic was setting in. High Chancellor Zephys called an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to discuss what had happened. "This is impossible," said the butterfly creature who had voted for humanity's exile. "Human weapons are primitive. Our ships are superior in every way." "The evidence suggests otherwise," replied the 6-legged blue alien whose ship had survived the encounter. "The human vessel destroyed a Council cruiser with a single shot. Our weapons could not even damage their shields." Zephys floated above the assembly, her crystal form flickering with uncertainty. "This must be investigated. We need to know how humans acquired such advanced technology." But Admiral Brooks, watching the Council's emergency session through human spy networks, knew the truth. Humanity had not acquired advanced technology. They had created it. The exile had freed them from Council restrictions and regulations. It had allowed them to develop weapons that the Council had never imagined. "What are your orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Tony Miller, commander of the battleship Dominion. Brooks looked at the tactical displays surrounding her. They showed the positions of human ships across the outer rim. Thousands of vessels, all armed with weapons that could destroy Council ships with ease. 5 years of preparation had led to this moment. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Begin Phase 1 of Operation Homecoming." Across human space, warships began to move. They left their hiding places in the outer rim and started toward the core systems of the galaxy. The Council had declared those systems off-limits to humans. Now humans were going to take them back. The war that everyone had feared was finally beginning. But it would not be the war the Council expected. They thought they were facing the same weak, divided humanity they had exiled 5 years ago. They had no idea what humanity had become. Captain Parker received new orders while his ship was still in the disputed system. He was to proceed to the Kepler sector and join the main fleet. The real battle was about to begin. "Are you ready for this, Lieutenant?" he asked Foster. She looked at her weapons display, where the indicators showed the full power of human military technology. "We have been ready for 5 years, Captain. The question is whether they are ready for us." The Pioneer jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of the Council ship. Behind them, the message was clear. The exile was over. The humans were coming home, and they were not asking for permission. Admiral Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion and watched the Council's grand fleet emerge from hyperspace. 800 ships appeared in perfect formation, representing every species and world in the Galactic Council. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in over a century. "Impressive," said Captain Tony Miller, the Dominion's commanding officer. He was a veteran of the exile years, a man who had helped build the human war machine from nothing. "They brought everyone." Brooks nodded. Through the viewport, she could see the massive council dreadnoughts leading the formation. Behind them came cruisers from a dozen different species. Escort ships and support vessels filled out the rear. It was everything the council had gathered in one place to crush humanity once and for all. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the council fleet," reported Communications Officer Lisa Davis. "Put it on screen," Brooks ordered. The bridge's main display flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Corvin, Supreme Commander of the Council forces. He was a tall, thin alien from the Serenity worlds, with pale skin and large black eyes. His species had not fought a war in 300 years. "Admiral Brooks," Corvin said in his soft, musical voice, "I am authorized to offer you one final chance at surrender. Return to your exile zones, and the Council will show mercy. Continue this aggression, and you will be destroyed." Brooks looked at the tactical display. The Council fleet outnumbered the humans 2-1. Their ships were larger and had more firepower on paper. By every traditional measure, the humans should surrender and beg for mercy. But traditional measures did not account for what humanity had become. "Admiral Corvin," Brooks replied, "I remember when you visited Earth 20 years ago. You told us that war was a primitive concept that had no place in a civilized galaxy. Today you bring 800 warships to destroy us. It seems the Council has learned to be primitive." Corvin's face darkened. "We do what we must to preserve peace. You have forced us to this action with your violence and aggression." "No," Brooks said. "You have forced yourself to this action with your fear. You are afraid of what we represent. You are afraid that other species will see our success and want the same freedom." She gestured to the viewport, where the human fleet waited. In loose formation, 400 ships, smaller than the Council fleet, but built for war rather than show. "You exiled us because you said we were too violent to live with civilized species," Brooks continued. "Today you will learn what violence really means." The transmission ended. Corvin's face disappeared from the screen, replaced by tactical data. As both fleets prepared for battle, "Signal all ships," Brooks ordered. "Begin Symphony Protocol." Across the human formation, captains received their orders and smiled. Symphony Protocol was something the Council had never seen before, where they formed rigid battle lines and followed ancient tactics. Humanity fought like a living thing. The human ships scattered in all directions. Destroyers peeled away from the main formation and vanished into stealth fields. Cruisers broke into small groups and attacked from impossible angles. The flagship Dominion charged straight at the center of the Council line. "They are breaking formation," reported Captain Sally Edwards of the destroyer Relentless to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Bill Turner. "The Council thinks we are running away." Edwards smiled as her ship's stealth system activated. The Relentless disappeared from enemy sensors, along with 50 other destroyers. They had spent 5 years practicing this maneuver. Now it was time to show the galaxy what human tactics could accomplish. The Council's first attack was everything Brooks had expected. Thousands of energy beams and missile salvos converged on where the human fleet had been moments before. It was a devastating display of firepower that could have destroyed any traditional enemy. But when the light faded, the weapons had struck empty space. The human ships had moved faster than the Council's targeting systems could track. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking from angles that defied conventional space combat wisdom. "Phase 2, Brooks ordered. "Show them what we learned." The human counterattack began with the stealth destroyers. They materialized behind the Council formation and opened fire with their particle cannons. Council ships that had been built to withstand frontal assault found their rear armor stripped away in seconds. Captain Edwards watched her weapons tear through a Council cruiser's engine section. "Their shields are failing," reported Turner. "Should we board them?" "Negative," Edwards replied. "We are not here to capture prisoners. We are here to win." The main human fleet struck next. Where the Council expected ship-to-ship duels, they found coordinated attacks by multiple vessels. Where they expected honor and tradition, they found efficiency and death. The Dominion itself led the charge. Its massive guns, built in the foundries of the Outer Rim, spoke with a voice that shook space itself. Each shot was precisely targeted to cause maximum damage. The Council ships, designed for peacekeeping and patrol duties, could not withstand the concentrated fury of human weapons. "Admiral, the enemy flagship is requesting a ceasefire," reported Davis. Brooks looked at the tactical display. Half the Council fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The rest were trying to retreat, but finding their escape routes blocked by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Denied," she said. "We did not start this war, but we will finish it." On the Council flagship, Admiral Corvin watched his fleet die around him. His weapons officers reported that human ships were immune to their heaviest weapons. His tactical computers could not predict where the enemy would strike next. His communications were jammed by technology he did not understand. "This is impossible," he whispered. How did they become so powerful so quickly? His science officer, a crystal being like Chancellor Zephys, provided the answer. "They had 5 years to prepare, Admiral. 5 years without our regulations and restrictions. 5 years to become everything we feared they could be. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Council's grand fleet had ceased to exist. Of 800 ships, fewer than 200 limped away into hyperspace. The human fleet had lost exactly 17 vessels, and those only because their captains had taken unnecessary risks in their eagerness to close with the enemy." Admiral Brooks opened a galaxy-wide communication channel. Her image appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds, from the crystal spires of the Altarian home world to the floating cities of the Harmony Collective. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "your Council declared war on humanity 5 years ago when they exiled us from our rightful place among the stars. Today, that war has ended with your defeat." She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. "The Galactic Council is dissolved. The age of alien rule is over. Earth's Terran Dominion is now the governing authority for this galaxy. You have 1 standard year to acknowledge our supremacy and submit to human rule." The transmission continued, with terms of surrender and integration procedures. But the important message had already been delivered. The Council was dead. Humanity was supreme. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders watched the broadcast in shock and terror. Some began preparing for resistance. Others started drafting surrender documents. All of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The exile was over. The Empire had begun. 2 years after the Great Battle, the galaxy looked completely different. Empress Victoria Kane stood at the window of her palace on New Terra, the new capital world of the Terran Dominion. Below her stretched a city of gleaming towers and busy spaceports. Ships came and went constantly, bringing tribute and trade from every corner of the galaxy. The transformation had been faster than anyone expected. Most alien species had surrendered within months of the Council's defeat. A few had tried to resist, but their rebellions had been crushed quickly and completely. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Brooks as she entered the throne room. Her uniform now bore the golden insignia of Grand Admiral of the Imperial Navy. "The Zephyrian Empire has formally submitted to Dominion authority. That makes them the last of the major powers to surrender. Kane nodded without turning from the window. She was a woman in her 50s who had been elected as humanity's leader during the exile years. Now she ruled over 10,000 worlds and 1,000,000,000,000 alien subjects. "How many species have we integrated so far?" she asked. 843, replied Director Alex Carter, who had been promoted to colonial administrator of the entire galaxy. "Most of them are adapting to human management better than we expected. Production is up across all sectors." The truth was simple. The aliens had grown weak under the Council's gentle rule. They had forgotten how to work hard, how to compete, how to improve themselves. Under human leadership, they were rediscovering these basic truths. Governor Alan White governed the Altarian sector, the home territory of the crystal beings who had once voted for humanity's exile. His monthly reports showed remarkable progress. "The Altarians are actually grateful for human rule," he had written in his latest message. "Their old government spent centuries debating every decision. We make decisions quickly and get things done. Their productivity has increased by 300% since we took over." It was the same story everywhere. The butterfly people of the Serene Republic were building more in 1 year under human rule than they had built in the previous century under their own government. The 6-legged traders of the commerce worlds were making more profit than ever. Before, now that human efficiency had replaced council bureaucracy, not everyone was happy with the new order. Captain Nancy Bell commanded the patrol ship Supremacy, one of hundreds of vessels that kept the peace across human space. Her job was to hunt down the few remaining rebels who still opposed human rule. "Captain, we are receiving an unauthorized transmission from the Proxima sector," reported her communications officer, Ensign Carl Davis. "It looks like another resistance cell trying to organize." Bell studied the message on her screen. It was from a group calling itself the Liberation Front, probably made up of former council officials who missed their old power. They were calling for all species to unite against human tyranny. "Set course for Proxima," she ordered. "Maximum speed." Time to remind them why resistance is pointless. The Supremacy was one of the new Titan-class ships, built in the expanded shipyards of the Outer Rim. It was 10 times more powerful than the ships that had defeated the Council fleet. The human military had not stopped growing after their victory. If anything, they had accelerated their expansion. When Bell arrived at Proxima, she found exactly what she expected. A small fleet of outdated alien ships trying to hide in an asteroid field. Their crews were mostly former Council Navy officers who had refused to surrender after the war. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Bell of the Terran Dominion Navy," she announced over the comm system. "You are in violation of Imperial law. Surrender immediately or face destruction." The rebel leader appeared on her screen. He was a tall, proud alien from one of the warrior species that had once served the Council as peacekeepers. His face showed the same arrogance that had led to humanity's exile years before. "We do not recognize your authority, human," he declared. "This galaxy belongs to all species, not just your barbaric race." Bell smiled coldly. "This galaxy belongs to whoever is strong enough to hold it. That would be us." The battle was over in minutes. The Supremacy's weapons turned the rebel fleet into scrap metal and glowing gas. Bell did not bother to take prisoners. The Empire had learned that mercy was often mistaken for weakness. Back on New Terra, Empress Kane received regular reports about such incidents. The rebels were becoming fewer and weaker as time passed. Most aliens had realized that human rule was not just inevitable, but beneficial. Dr. Kevin Moore, now director of Imperial Research, stood in his laboratory looking at plans for humanity's next great project. The Intergalactic Explorer was nearly ready for its maiden voyage. It was designed to travel beyond the edge of their galaxy, to find new worlds and new species to rule. "How long until we can launch the expedition?" Kane asked during their weekly meeting. 6 months, Your Majesty, Moore replied. The ship is equipped with our most advanced weapons and shields. It can survive in the void between galaxies and establish contact with whatever we find on the other side. Kane studied the ship's specifications. It was beautiful and terrible, a perfect example of human engineering. What do we expect to find? Other galaxies, other species, other civilizations that think they are safe from our reach, Moore said. They will learn otherwise. The expansion never stopped. Human colonies spread to every habitable world in the galaxy. Human miners stripped resources from dead planets and asteroid belts. Human scientists pushed the boundaries of technology further every day, but the most important change was in the aliens themselves. The younger generations, those who had grown up under human rule, were different from their parents. They worked harder, thought faster, achieved more. They were becoming more like humans. It is fascinating, reported Dr. Helen Rank, the Empire's chief sociologist. The alien species are evolving under our influence, not physically, but culturally and mentally. They are learning to be competitive, ambitious, successful. In a few generations, they will be almost indistinguishable from humans. Governor White had noticed the same thing in the Altarian sector. The young crystal beings work with an intensity their elders find disturbing, he wrote. They compete for advancement, strive for individual achievement, and show impatience. With the old ways of consensus and committee, they are becoming more human than their own people. Admiral Brooks stood in the Imperial War Room, studying star charts that showed the entire galaxy under human control. Every system was marked with the blue color of the Dominion. Every world paid taxes to the human government. Every species followed human law. What should our next target be, Admiral? Asked Fleet Admiral Greg Stone, who commanded the exploration. Fleet Brooks pointed to the edge of the star chart, where the galaxy faded into empty space. Out there, beyond our galaxy, the universe is full of other civilizations that think they are safe from us. It is time to prove them wrong, Stone nodded. The intergalactic fleet is ready for deployment. We have 50 ships equipped for long range. Exploration and conquest. Then give the order, Brooks said. Let us introduce the universe to human ambition. The message went out across the fleet. Ships that had been built to conquer worlds were now tasked with conquering galaxies. The exile that had begun with humanity's banishment from the Council would end with humanity's conquest of everything. On distant worlds, alien children learned human history in their schools. They learned about the exile, about the Great War, about the victory that had made their species subjects of the Empire. They learned to speak human languages and follow human customs and dream human dreams. The galaxy that had once exiled humanity for being too aggressive now existed only to serve human ambition. The Council's nightmare had become reality. Humanity had not been tamed by exile. They had been unleashed, and now they were ready to unleash themselves on the universe that the age of human supremacy had no limits, no boundaries, no end. The exile was over. The conquest of everything had begun.